Welcome back to the Means Report. We appreciate you staying with us. I love when we have local leaders on because you can really look behind the scenes and find out what is going on in our entire community from their vantage point. And I think that's important. Commissioner Jordan Johnson is no stranger to the Means Report. He is so kind to come back and join us and talk about District 1 and all of Augusta. Commissioner, thanks for coming back.
It's always a pleasure to be here, Brad. Thank you.
Well, I told Commissioner Pulliam I was going to ask both of y'all about this because it's the big issue. It's hurricane cleanup.
Yeah.
How do you think that's going overall? Is it where you would like it to be right now?
Well, it's a challenge. You know, no one was able to prepare for Hurricane Helene the way that we thought that we could have. I mean, we didn't know that the damage was going to be what it was. But to date, we've collected about 3 million cubic yards of debris, which is about 3 million washing machines. And so we're moving as fast as we can. And now we've made a slight pivot towards picking up via based off of voting precincts. So no neighborhood is getting left out. One side of town isn't being favored over the other. It's going to be a fair process. Folks are getting clean. The neighborhoods are getting cleaned up, but it's a long process because no one expected this much damage.
You're right. And a lot of people ask me this, and maybe they've asked you too. They'll say, does anybody know how bad it was? Does anybody realize how hard Augusta got hit? Commissioner Johnson, do you think the state and the nation understand what happened to Augusta that night? I'm
grateful for the partners that we have at the federal level and at the state level. They were quick to respond to Augusta when the storm happened, from the vice president to the cabinet members. The governor came, so folks know the impact that Augusta experienced during Helene. But on the local level, I don't think that our residents really understand the real impact that we had. Of course, if they were impacted directly by the storm, of course they understand it. But when you are picking up the debris and you're going out and you're doing needs-based assessments in our community, we're finding that there's so much more need that we didn't even realize 2 or 3 months ago. And so it's just an ever-evolving process that I'm personally asking people to be patient throughout, so that we can get our city back to some sense of normalcy.
You're right, though. Even after all of these months, you still notice things or pick up on needs from people that you might not have noticed before. Another thing that has happened since we were last together is the mayor of Augusta has a vote on commission matters. My question to you is, has that made a difference yet? Have you ever noticed a moment or an agenda item where he casts a vote and you go, oh, okay, that's different than it was in the past? Has that happened yet?
Well, as you know, I wasn't in favor of granting the mayor a vote, and my position stays the same, not because of the mayor, but simply because I don't think that's the role of the mayor. I think that conversation is going to be held throughout our charter review committee. But as far as votes that are concerned, since that vote has been granted to the mayor, nothing substantial has come across that has just been, awe-inspiring or controversial, as I should say.
Sure.
He votes on every item. But the commission is such a different place now. The politics has certainly changed. And so we're just going to have to stay tuned to see how things work out. But my position will always remain the same, that regardless of who the mayor of Augusta is, the mayor should be somewhat of an executive and not a legislator. And that's what giving him a vote on the commission does.
So we're going to have this charter review. We're going to take a look at the document that governs our community. Correct me if I'm wrong, no matter what changes are recommended, voters will decide if they approve those changes or not. Is that how it's going to go?
Yes. So whatever the Charter Review Committee recommends, the voters will have an opportunity to vote by way of a referendum. We call for a referendum, and the commission voted unanimously to do so. And I think that's the only way to go about this process, to make sure that it is fair and that it is transparent. We're hearing rumblings about what some things could be presented, but we don't get caught up in rumblings and rumors. We face the facts, and we allow the voters to make a determination from there.
Let's talk about the homestead exemption.
Yeah.
This is that floating homestead exemption. I feel like I've read about it a zillion times on the news. Voters did approve that, and now y'all opted out of it. Tell me why the commission opted out of it, and do you think that'll hurt homeowners?
Well, I voted to stay in. I didn't vote to opt out. I voted to stay in for a number of reasons. The first reason is simple. The voters voted for this, and regardless if people think that they didn't know what they were voting for or not, the voters voted.
Yep.
And I will never put myself in a position to, take something away from voters if they think that it was the best thing for them. And secondly, what we saw last year was a great amount of people saw a spike in the amount of property taxes that they were paying because of these artificial increases to their bills. And this bill from the state level would have somewhat protected them from that measure. I know there was a lot of conversation about whether the business community would eat the cost or if renters would eat the cost. But if I'm a homeowner and I'm having to pay more money in taxes and I'm renting my home, then quite naturally I'm going to have to raise that rent so that I can cover for those property taxes. So I mean, it's a tough decision that the commission had to make. I'm not coming down on any commissioner for any decision that they've made, but my decision to not opt out was simply because the people wanted this, they voted for it. And I believe that we should be able to give them some type of relief. Everything is going up right now.
It is.
The cost of living is steadily increasing. And I think that the least thing that we can do in the city of Augusta is give our homeowners an opportunity to breathe a little bit.
Let me ask you about another issue that impacts all of us. We depend on our garbage pickup. I know toward the end of last year, there was some uncertainty with our collectors and the contract that we have with them. Any new developments on that front?
Well, we've extended the current contract for a number of months,
Right.
Which is costing us additional dollars that we hadn't budgeted before because we're not able to come down to a certain agreement for the contract. Some of us want recycling. Some of us want one contractor. Our departments are telling us that one contractor can't handle Augusta completely. And so we take the risk and go with one contractor. Then some folks might have interruptions in their services like we saw years ago when the commission had to put in place fees and fines for haulers when they weren't picking up your trash.
Or you have that just left the trash out there.
Yeah, there's always something. That's what I say.
No,
there's always something. But I believe that we should have more than one contractor, but if the commission wants to go with one, let's do it. My whole thing here is let's figure out how to get a contract on the table so that your trash service isn't interrupted and so that we can continue moving on. But to continue extending contracts and creating budget deficits that we don't have to create, it's just beyond my understanding.
Let me ask you about the homeless population.
Yeah.
Your efforts on their behalf have always been so strong, so passionate. I still see homeless folks around town. Are we doing all we can to help them?
Yeah, this issue, like I say every time that we come together, is that it is not a simple fix.
No.
This homeless issue that we have in Augusta stems far beyond my existence. When we created the Homeless Task Force, nothing had been done prior to 2021 or 2022 when the task force was created. And so what you're seeing now is that the task force has new leadership in Nomi Stanton and Luke Nade. And they are just amazing leaders. We are meeting constantly to think of programs that we can put in place to help our homeless, find housing, find mental health resources. There's a mailbox program that has been spearheaded over at Gap Ministries to help them have an address so they can get critical services, because without an address, you don't get those services. And now we're looking at ways to partner with outside agencies to house our homeless by way of private and public support. So you'll be hearing a lot of that soon, but I want folks to know that we are working tremendously to make sure that if anyone is experiencing homelessness, that they're experiencing it briefly and that they have an opportunity to get on the other side of it, so to speak.
Well, that's encouraging to hear, Commissioner. And as I
Yeah.
mentioned, you've always been on this issue, working hard since day one. On a much lighter note, Masters Week is coming up quickly. Are you excited about Masters Week? Do you think Augusta, even after all that's happened to us, will still be able to put its best foot forward for our visitors, especially visitors who might bring their companies here?
Yeah, we always put our best foot forward.
Yeah.
I always look forward to Masters Week because Augusta rolls out the red carpet. I wish we would do more of that throughout the year, but we roll out the red carpet for sure during Masters Week. If Tiger Woods isn't playing, I don't pay much attention to it. I grew up watching Tiger play.
Same here.
My
Same
dad
here.
and stepdad loved Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
I always look forward to seeing the Condoleezza Rice viewings and things across the city. But other than that, I think Augusta rolls out the red carpet, and I think we're going to be able to do the same thing this year.
Let me ask you one more quick
Sure.
question. And you mentioned earlier the national visitors, the national leaders who came here in the wake of Hurricane Helene. You helped lead that effort as chair of the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
We had the vice president come here. You mentioned others. Do you want to continue to try to keep Augusta in the national spotlight and make sure that people in Washington know about us?
Well, I don't think that it's an effort solely on my back. I think that what Augusta is doing as a whole is putting Augusta in the spotlight. When you have companies like Arubis and other companies coming to Augusta to plant their flags, that means something. You know, when the President of the United States, well, then former President of the United States, invest in Augusta as a workforce hub, that is something that we should thank DC for. I think that what we're doing in Augusta matters. We have to continue to make sure that we are singing our own song, that we're writing our own narrative, and that we're accepting help from Washington if Washington decides to help us.
Yeah.
But I am proud of the work that we've been able to accomplish. I'm proud of the relationships that we've built. And, you know, as nonpartisan as we try to be, unfortunately, the nature of the beast in Washington is not nonpartisan. But Augusta is good because our residents are great. And I think that's what we have to continue to focus on, and the song we have to continue to sing.
I agree. Commissioner Jordan Johnson, thanks for your hard work
Thank
for
you.
us and for coming back to the Means Report.
Always a pleasure, Brad. Thank you.
Same here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. When we come back, how you can help us get more great guests like Commissioners Pulliam and Johnson. Stay with us.